Hello. How
Uh,
about
I,
that?
I don't think anyone listening to the audio version of this or having not looked at the screen didn't see the fox eating the Wi-Fi cable. That's a little bit too sensitive for me, I think, the foxes eating the Wi-Fi cable. Anyway, this is the KimAppa podcast. I forgot to actually start the show. This is the KimAppa podcast. Jarrod and Robbie are
He's
here.
fumbling at words.
Exactly. Look, Robbie's never been happier, which makes me upset, of course, as
I'm
well.
ecstatic. It's taken us a little bit of stealth work to get this done, but I'm glad we got it done. But have we resolved the Fox issue?
No, we haven't resolved the fox issue. In fact, just before we started, I put the cable in, the one that hasn't been eaten by the fox, and it completely shorted out the entire Wi-Fi at the house. So somehow we're getting worse, but I've got a guy coming over tomorrow morning or Wednesday morning, one of the mornings anyway. So we're hoping that it will be fixed. Anyway, huge test match this week. How much did you watch of the test match?
Oh, quite a bit. Every day, watched a little bit, and watched the highlights very dedicatedly. And oh, man, those two innings from Shubman Gill, dude, my word.
Well, he's the one I want to talk about to start with, obviously. But here's the thing. KP's getting a lot of credit now for basically saying the sorts of things that you and I always say, which is young players take a little bit longer to get good. You have to give them time. We went back and had a look at it. If you look at his record compared to the matches he was in, he was mostly around par in a lot of those matches and then slightly below. He did have a bit of a dip there for a little while.
He did.
But if you go through the history of cricket, that's a very normal thing for very good players and great players to do. So I think we compared him to guys like, Martin Crowe and, so many other players who's, really struggled at the start of their career. Garfield Sobers really struggled at the start of his career. Jack Scalise really started. And the thing is that the way the modern cricket fandom works, and this is because it's a 24-hour news cycle, right? You see every innings, you review every dismissal, you start with your own conspiracy theories, you start suggesting that this person shouldn't be in the side and everything else. You and I, just as purely as people who love batting and watch them, would both look at Shubman Gill, even when he was failing in Test cricket, going, yeah, he has a bit of an issue with the ball coming back in, right? But he's not the only Test player who's ever done that, who's gone on to be incredible. Everyone else just over-indexes on all these sorts of things. The truth is that it was quite clear it was eventually going to come around. And if he's got this good at 24, 25, you wonder what's going to happen when he gets to 27, 28 and he really hits peak maturity.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I completely agree with you. I think the scrutinization at this level, at this point, is way too much. And that means that these players have to be that much more resilient as athletes to not let the noise get in and affect their psyche. And I think Shubman's done that. I was listening to his interview immediately after that his innings on day 2, I think, after 269, and Dinesh Karthik was talking to him, and DK was asking him about, what has he put in as far as preparation is concerned, and he said that I knew very clearly that there were things that I needed to work on, and before this tour, and so immediately after the IPL, I went to work and I addressed those things, and it seems like those things are actually working for me at this point in time. I think for me the sweetest part of that innings was the amount of time he spent in the zone. You know what I mean? And it was like, generally you spend maybe half a session. It seemed like he spent an hour and a half, 2 hours, he spent maybe a session and a half, or maybe 2 full sessions being in that zone and recreating that zone. And that for me is actually something. The fact that he was able to do that with the breaks involved, with managing fatigue, managing, switching on and switching off, and bring himself back to the present. The amount of times it felt like he had an eternity before he played the ball was what stood out for me in both of those innings.
There were times when he was going to flick the ball on the leg side, and you could tell he was going to do it before the ball was bowled.
Yeah,
like he's like before. they're gonna bowl this roughly around off stump. And they've got a mid-wicket in, long on its back, and they've got to move. I'm gonna be ready to flick this, into that gap beforehand. That's what you're talking about, is that zone when it doesn't actually really matter what you're bowled at that point, does it? Because you're already there.
Yeah, so you know well beforehand, like it's like you're so one with the game. You're so one. When I say one with the game, you have to understand you're so one with the field set. You're so one with the gaps that are available. You're so one with the pitch. You're so one with just tracking the ball and following the ball. Like it's like you know the ball intimately, so you know it's like it's telling you what it's gonna do. You're in like that energy. You're in the same energy frequency of the ball and the whole game at the same time, right? And that is being in the zone, and to hold on to that is very, very hard. And as batters sometimes, every batter's pursuit, especially in red ball cricket, is to find the shortest route to that zone, right? And to find that shortest route to that zone is a lot of work. It takes years of work to get there. But the minute you find the shortest route to the zone, it's not like you create it every single time. You hope to create it and you hope to get there, even though you know the shortest route to it. And then you hope to hold on to it. The first task is to get there. The second task is to actually hold on to that space for as long as possible, with all the variables involved, right? Like the breaks, the bowlers, the variations of the bowlers, the variations from the pitch as the pitch continues to deteriorate in a 4-day, 5-day game. It's about taking into account all of those aspects and being one with it. And the minute you're one with it, it's like as the pitch is changing, as the ball is changing, your frequency is changing along with it. And that for me is magic. That's the magic that exists in cricket, right? In batting. To experience that is a high. And like for me, I was like, wow, that is just divine. That's like divinity in that space of batting, right? That's when you reach the highest state of like God status of batting, God tier of batting. You get there, and we witnessed that from Shubman Gill. You've seen Joe Root do it a lot of times from the England side. You've seen Rahul Dravid do it. You've seen Sachin Tendulkar do it. You've seen Virat Kohli do it. You've seen VVS Lakshman do it. When you look at these greats, I've seen Shikhar Dhawan do it, and that they're in it. But I think the length of time he's been there, because sometimes you go out of the zone and then you're out of it and then you're shaky for 20 minutes. And then you're like, okay, no, I need to simplify things and just bring it back here and then start existing from here and then expand it from that place again to make it as large as I possibly can be. What was special about this innings was that he was able to keep it in that expanded state for so long, so easily. That's what I think speaks to me about the greatness of Shubman Gill's innings in this test match.
It reminds me, AB de Villiers talked about how when he was at his absolute best, he's facing Mitchell Johnson when Mitchell Johnson's at his absolute best. And he said, it didn't matter because once I find that zone, it's like Mitchell Johnson's bowling underarm to me. Yeah. And I was thinking about that when watching Shubman Gill. But the other thing that I think is different to some of these other players who find that mode, we've seen KP find it, right? We've seen Brian Lara find it, and they just keep going up and up until they touch the sun. But because of the kind of dude that Shubman Gill is, right? He's like, oh no, I'm just going to stay in middle overs of a one-day game. Right, I'm just going to rotate every ball. Maybe if you've got a bad matchup against me, or the field's in the wrong spot, I'll take a boundary. Right, but most of the time he was just like, no, I can score whenever I need to, however I need to, all the way through. And it's that zone you can kind of spot it with a batter when they're in the position kind of beforehand. So I'll tell you the difference in this game. Like so many times there would be people near me, I'll be going leg side for one. Forward defense. Like you could kind of feel what he was going to do beforehand. Yeah. And then when you watch Ollie Pope, I literally said to everyone around me, I just saw Ollie Pope go out before he went out. Like it was so clear that Ollie Pope was going to get bowled to me before it happened. And you can, when a player is either in that zone or completely away from it in the way that Ollie Pope is, you can kind of pick that sort of stuff up. And it was incredible. Also, just from when you're making a big innings like that, if you go back, he doesn't start like on rails. Like he was 20 off 70 odd balls. There was a long period of time where I think Jaiswal got frustrated, partly because England were giving Gill as much strike as possible. So they were getting Jaiswal off strike really easily. And Gill was just, struggling's the wrong word, but he wasn't really going anywhere, right?
He just unperturbed. He was willing to do the time, Jar.
Yeah.
If you're willing to do the time in red ball cricket, in test cricket, if you're willing to do the time and absorb the pressure, One of the guys in Indian cricket who did that like so well was Murli Vijay. He would spend eons in the 90s because he's like, I want to own this space. I'm in no hurry. I want to own this space. And then he stayed there in that space, right? We were talking, you were alluding to Brian Lara being in the zone. I've heard a great story about Brian Lara being in the zone, and I happened to ask him once about, how did you navigate through batting such a long innings? And one of the things he shared with me was, when I'm batting through a long innings, I'm very aware of the ebb and flow of an innings, right? So he says, if I get quickly to 80, then I intentionally slow myself down to 90 or 95, and then I pace myself up to 120, and then I slow myself down intentionally, right? And then pace myself up to like 150, and then pick up and then slow down for 10 runs and then pick up again. And you say, that's how I maintained and managed the zone that I was in. So for some people, they like the ebb and flow of it. Some people love to stay right in the middle of it and stay. Like if this is the circle, if this is the circle, they like to stay right here. They don't like to go to the edge. And then there are players who like to go to the edge, flirt there for a little bit, then come back down. Go to the edge, flirt there for a little bit, come back down. And it's the guys who are able to do that are the guys who score those massive hundreds, right? Like those triple hundreds and quadruple hundreds, a 500, and that's why Brian Lara, I think, was able to do that. It just made so much sense to me. Like, wow. And then I was able to, what I did was like, how can I utilize that in my game? Like, how do I utilize the ebb and flow in my game? And I was able to replicate that in domestic one-day cricket for a long time, where I'd pace my innings in such a way, give myself the first 5 overs, up the ante for the next 5, and then down it completely between 10 and 20. Just basic singles, just rotation of strike. And then between 20 and 25, up it a little bit again. Take the attack on. And then by the time the 35th over is around, I'm close to 100. Or I've gotten 100. And then as the business kicking on, take it to the 40th over. And suddenly you find a pattern within your batting. It's so easily replicatable over and over and over again. And that is what I hope that, Shubman has imbibed from this innings. I'm sure he's like, we're talking about it. He existed in that zone. So I'm sure that his insight about that innings is going to be so much. And to be very honest, to his credit, like this guy, this kid has been someone who's worked so hard on his game, but he's been obsessed about batting ever since I've seen him. I saw him first at the age of 18 when we played for KKR together. And he would be the first guy into the net and the last guy dragged out of the net. Not just the last guy out. He'd have to be dragged down and say, we're done, get out. He's that kind of guy. And he's batted like that from the age of 3. I'm sure. And then I've seen the evolution of him as a human being and as an athlete at the same time between the ages of 18 and he's 24 now? 24, 25?
25, I think, yeah.
I did an interview with him in 2024. And then I did an interview with him in 2025. And I can tell you, just between 24 and 25, just the mentality and the shift in the thinking and the way he articulated his thinking about his batting has changed. Like it's gone up a notch or maybe 2 notches. So here's a guy who's very cognizant about what works for him, very much in control, passionately obsessed with batting and being a leader. Like we were talking about, he's the prince of Indian cricket, the next prince of Indian cricket, or, the potential king of Indian cricket. Just the way, if he's able to keep up with this and build on this, man, we're in for an exciting 15 years of 10 years of, or 12 years of Shubman Gill.
So your top scorer in first class cricket's what, about 160 odd, I think? Is that right? 100
Yeah.
162. You've actually got a higher score in list A cricket, which we'll have to discuss another time. But
yeah,
when who was I talking about? Mark Waugh. Mark Waugh sort of said that he felt that he had done his job. And I think if you look at someone like Sachin's career, I think there are a few times when Sachin probably felt he had done his job, right? There are different kinds of batters. And Barry Richards talked about that sort of Brian Lara type of batter, who's just like, and Brian Lara talked about it as well, where Barry Richards would say, oh, he just liked to club baby seals. But Brian Lara looked at it in a very different way, which is, I don't always get in. So on the day I get in, it doesn't matter if I make 50, 100, 150, 200, 250, right? In his mind, he's like, this is the day I have to go as far as possible because I'm in today. Once I get to that. it feels that it was interesting watching him celebrate the milestones. A lot of players, I don't know if you know this. This is a fun fact. Not between people are much more likely to go out between 100 and 104 than they are from 96 to 99, right? And the reason is you're really watching the ball when you're coming up to your 100, right? You are focusing 100% on getting that next ball. You might be nervous, it might affect you and everything else, but you're watching that ball. Once you get to 100, you completely release. And like I've only made a couple of hundreds in my life. I've almost gone out the next ball every single time, right? Because it's just it's such a big thing for that. You watch Shubman Gill, and as I said, some of it is that zone, but it's also this sort of automatic way he scores, where he can just keep pressing the same buttons over and over and over again. This should be something that he can do. I'm not saying he's going to make 260 all the time, but he could be someone who goes well beyond just making hundreds. And what does Graham Gooch call them? Big Daddy hundreds, right? Yeah, he has that ability, and not all, even great batters have that ability. Some get to 100 and they're like, job done.
Yeah, so many times, right? For me, honestly, when every time I got to 150, I had this thing in my head where I was like, okay, now 150. I really want to get to 180. I really want to get to 100. Like, then for me, it was like, because the number of times I've gotten out in 160, between 158 and 162, so many hundreds out of the 22 hundreds I've got, maybe seven or eight of them at 161, between 150 and 160. Because something in me would, and I never really figured it out, but I don't know if it was just subconsciously, I was switched off, because I've got triple hundreds in say, not domestic, but pre-domestic cricket and all of that. I got double hundreds, triple hundreds in junior cricket and all of that. But for me, I think in first class cricket, there was a point, I don't know what it is. I think perhaps I just got satisfied, perhaps. I don't know. I got bored. I don't know.
Varun's just put up that you scored 159, 160, 160, 161.
Yeah,
I'm obviously... I was a lot crapper at cricket than you, but I've told this story before, but it tells you about how the psychology of all this stuff works.
Yep.
We used to have to retire at 50, right? So we would make 50 and then you'd be pulled out of the game. And then the minute I got to the next level where you didn't have to retire, I would make 50 and go out without adding an extra run. And quite often I would go out the next ball forever. And the only time, Robbie, that I went past 50 was completely by accident, because I was playing in a game where we were chasing, let's say, 100, 105. And I wasn't sure if they were celebrating by 50 or that we'd won the game. And I hit 2 boundaries in a row. And I was so confused. I went on to make a big score that day because the psychology wasn't there. And I remember Michael Clark had the big problem of making hundreds and then going out, right? That was one of his big issues. And Steve Smith said, how did you get past that? And Michael Clark's like, oh, in my brain, I just decided that 150 was 100 now. Right?
Yeah.
And so it's little stupid things like that can help you. Whereas clearly you had a similar kind of issue where you're almost like Pavlov's dog at a certain point, right? Like it's like, oh, I'm here now. What do oh, I'm gone.
Yeah. It was like that. Because after a point, I think the third or fourth one, I was like panicking. I was like, I got tight and my hands, like everything gets tight, right? Your shoulders get tight, your arms get tight. And you're like, oh, what do I do now? It's like, you've scored 150 runs and you don't know what to do with the next ball. And then there were times you're like, I'm just going to breathe. I'm not going to worry about it. And then suddenly one inside edge onto the stump, you're like, fuck.
All right. The next one I want to talk about is, because I think this is quite interesting for me. We've basically seen this twice. 2 players that I think you and I have been quite high on. I think anyone who kind of follows cricket understands. Akash Deep is the other one, right? When he bowled in India, people would say to me, oh, he's not taking any wickets. And I was like, but I think he's bowling fine. Like, you know, I don't think when he was bowling in India, I thought he was sensational, but I thought he was bowling fine. In Australia, I'm pretty sure we did, you know, we had a look at him a couple of times. We kind of concluded that it was a little bit just bad luck. And people don't want to hear that, right? You know how it is. You can't say that to sports fans. Sports fans are like that. You know, that's not how these things work. And it's like, it kind of is. Like if you put the ball in the right position, right? And you get people to make an error, sometimes they will make errors that will end up in you getting 3 straight catches the second slip. And sometimes it will be a couple of inside edges that miss leg stump, right? Like that's just how the sport works. Again, it's really hard for people to understand, you know, how these things work. But I was watching Steve Harmison this week watch Akash Deep, and he's just like, this guy's great. Like, where's this guy been? And so when a bowler sees someone like Akash Deep, we can understand it. But he did, at a certain point, you still have to take wickets, right? That's the other thing, because you can get into a mind space where you end up, you get in a mind space where you lose your confidence just because you're not, even though you think you're doing everything right, if it doesn't come through.
Yeah, absolutely. And and to be honest, I have to put my hand up and say that, I was one of the guys who didn't have a lot of confidence in Akash Deep coming into England, even though I genuinely believed that he was really unlucky in Australia. I just felt like he was more of a new ball bowler and probably wouldn't be as effective with the old ball, but he proved all his naysayers wrong, me included, where I was just surprised to see him bowl so well. And he's like, if he's bowling as well as he is right now, man, keep him going, dude. This is the way to go. And just getting the ball to wobble as much as he did and get the ball to move as much as he did off the wicket on that track, that takes skill. And you could see there was a sense of self-assuredness about Akash when he bowled in this innings. It felt like just the demeanor felt like I gotta show the world how good I am. Right? It's like he took the bull by its horns and said, let's shake this up now. And then this the way he celebrated his wickets, and he's like, I'm here. This is for me. That for me, I think speaks like volumes about the confidence he has in his own ability. And I'm happy to say that I was wrong about Akash Deep.
I think what really was dramatic for me, and you mentioned it briefly, is the amount of lateral movement he was able to get. Siraj is someone, I think Siraj's off-cutter probably moves as much as anyone in world cricket, and probably, I would say, almost the most. Like, I've said this before, his best ball is, impossible to play.
Yeah.
Akash is right there, and at times, maybe even got it to consistently seem, a lot more. You watch I think it was when he was bowling to Jamie Smith. Jamie Smith, we'll get to Jamie Smith in a moment, how well he was batting. Jamie Smith was batting like, he could have used a cabbage and made runs against everyone else. And there was that spell that Akash bowled to him where I don't even think Jamie Smith knows how he wasn't bowled, right? Like the amount of times he would cut a ball, but there was one that was outside off stump and came back so far. I just think there is something quite special there. I think there are going to be times when, as you said, perhaps he is going to be more of a new ball bowler than anything else. The interesting thing about this series is at the moment, India's new ball bowling is so much better than England's, right? Like, Woakes started to find a little bit more rhythm and a little bit more form, but he's still bowling quite slow, and he bowled some good spells. And unless Jofra comes back and starts bowling very well in the next test with the new ball, they're not a very good new ball bowling side at all. I'm not sure they're a very good bowling side, but they're certainly not a very good new ball bowling side, which is such a random thing for an English cricket team.
It is, because see, I think perhaps the thing that Woxie has to kind of contend with is the fact that I don't think he's slowed down so much. His pace is still about 130s, mid 130s. But I think what is different about the way he's bowling right now is that his ball is not swinging early. Like there's no late swing, so to speak, right? It's just kind of going, and then it's just a slight amount of shape with the new ball, which is actually quite foreign to see when Woakes is bowling. Right, he generally gets the ball to move a lot like Bhuvaneshwar Kumar, both back away from the batter and back into the batter, into the right hander. So I think his lack of effectiveness kind of roots from that, the fact that the movement is not really coming through his hands, and that can happen. And I thought he would consider himself pretty unlucky, where two umpires' decisions, just clipping the stumps, were given not out in the first innings. But luckily for him, or to his benefit, the umpire was consistent about it, and where India also lost a review because it was umpire's call. Didn't lose the review, but didn't get a wicket because it was an umpire's call. So the standard of umpiring also has been great, and they will have to look at the likes of an Archer if they want to, spruce up that new ball attack. But do you think someone like Stokes can fit that role for them?
The problem with Stokes and the new ball is he struggles to control the ball when it's swinging wildly, right? Like He just struggles. I think their thought process would be that he will just bowl maybe a little bit too wide and maybe give away too many runs and go in that. I think he likes the bowl with a slightly older ball, because if you look at, he's a swing bowler. In one-day cricket, he really should be bowling probably with the new ball, but when they've tried it, it doesn't work. I've seen it in T20 cricket as well. It just gets away from him a little bit. Whereas when it's a little bit older, it sort of swings more, conventionally is the wrong way, but you know what I mean? He can control the swing. The way he's bowling at the moment, I mean, I thought he was their best bowler in the first test. I didn't think he bowled as well in the second test. So maybe some of that is just fatigue from having to bowl so much. But I think you can use him as first change. But if Jofra and Wokes are bowling with the new ball, which is, I would assume that Cast comes out, right? Is my guess. And I've heard that Tongue might come out as well. So if they come out, then you bring in Archer and you bring in Atkinson. Then
he's good, man. That Atkinson kid is good.
He's good when he's bowling at full pace. If he's not bowling at full pace, he's very, very straight up and down. But if he's bowling at full pace, I think he's a really good bowler. But I'm not. I mean, everyone at Surrey tells me he's back to pace. So if he is, he could be quite handy. But again, he comes in. So that's a better attack, right? Like Bryden Cast had a busted toe in this test and looked like he could barely field at some stage. And Tongue and Cast kind of overlap a little bit too much. Whereas I think Archer and Atkinson are a little bit more different in skill set. So it's interesting. Either way, I think the fascinating thing is just how much better India looked with the new ball without even needing Bumrah, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the fact that they've won this test without Bumrah and won it by 1 million runs without Bumrah is completely bizarre to me.
It augurs well for India. And you got to give credit to the even the conviction and the energy of the Indian team while they were fielding. You could see that they were hungry for the win. They really wanted the win. And just the way, for example, Washington Sundar bowled. That ball to Ben Stokes in that second innings. Woof! That was a peach, man. Just right before lunch to get the ball to in and then get him to defend and pad bat. Oof, that was top notch. And what's with Ben Stokes being surprised about every time he gets out? It's like that. It's like, how?
I've talked about this before, and I don't know if I've done it on commentary, but Ben Stokes and Virat Kohli, their inability to understand that anyone can dismiss them is actually kind of awesome, right? Like, it really is. But in this case, what I really liked about it is he's reviewing it because he's seen the ball so poorly, Robbie. He doesn't know if he's hit his pad, his bat, or whatever. He was so far behind that. I thought that was incredible. But you're right. So I think if you did a collage of Virat Kohli and Ben Stokes going out one after the other, I can't think of any players I've ever covered who look more genuinely shocked or confused that they've been dismissed than those two at a time. So what happened was, Ben, he bowled an off spinner on middle stump that straightened and it hit your pad. On your shin. Like, it was such a remarkable one.
And it's like literally like 8 inches before it hit the bat. So it's like, and then he was showing the umpire the bat. So like,
but also,
he didn't feel it.
If he thought he hit it, he would have reviewed it straight away. So he doesn't review it straight away. I think that's one of those ones where you know you hit something, but as you said, it was miles away. It wasn't even close. Yeah. So
KL Rahul's slip was so sharp. He was the only one going mad with that appeal. Like if you saw him at first slip, he was the one like going like he was going like really appealing for that.
Our commentary position was kind of on the around the wicket angle, and I just thought, well, that just looks so out. Like I was, it was so out. Just
so well bowled by Washi though. Just the way it came back in the air. Oh, beautiful! It's stuff that you want to watch as far as Test cricket is concerned.
Just everyone in the comments is talking about this. Obviously, we can't see it, but I don't know how much Robbie knows of this. Vian Mulder is currently 366 not out against Zimbabwe. So we will keep it. If in the comments you want to tell us as he breaks other people's records. So he's just gone past Sobers' record. So obviously we then have Lara's score, Hayden's score, and then Lara's score ahead. So if you can keep us updated, I do have Cricket Info open on the side as well. But clearly
we're gonna keep an eye out on that as well. Yeah.
That's and cool. So we'll let you know. So
he's had a great start to his Test career. Huh?
Yeah, well, I mean, what was he averaging with the bat? Maybe 24, whatever. I was talking to Neil Manthorpe about him, and Neil Manthorpe was like, he was trying really, really hard to prove himself. And then he got to a point where I think the coaches just convinced him, it's all right. Like, we know that you can play. Just play your role. And one of the roles that they gave him, Robbie, was we want you to bat for 40 minutes at number 3, right? So hilariously, they've asked him to bat for 40 minutes at number 3, and now he's about to make, well, he might make 400. But they didn't, they said to him, we know you're not number 3. We're not expecting you to come out and go absolutely ballistic. What we are expecting is for you to just play, your kind of cricket and just feel comfortable. And we've got your bowling. He was also told with his bowling, stop chasing wickets. We don't need you to chase wickets. Bowl at the top of off stump. We've got everyone else can chase wickets. You just do your role. And it's just settled him down to play his best cricket.
Yeah, I'm just looking at his records here. He's just played 20. He's played 20 Test matches, 786 runs, out of which I think 400 are today. A highest of 147 before this, an average of 26. So obviously work in progress. But
147 was last week, wasn't it? Against Zimbabwe again.
I think so. I'm not sure. Yeah. But decent first class record. 87 matches, 146 innings. Middle order bat, all rounder, averaging 36.6, highest of 235. That's fairly good, eh? Got 1300s, 1550s.
Someone put it. Abdullah put it in the comments, and this is. I'll just chuck this up. He said that the comparison to Callis was not good for him. That was a real mistake because Callis is a top order player. I know Vian is making runs now, but Callis was always a top order player, and a completely different kind of player to Vian Mulder. And I think that was an element of like if you tell someone that they're the next Callis, and we've seen this with the next McGraths, the next Sachin. Like you at a certain point, you just need to pull it back a little bit and be like, no. He's got to find his own way rather than everything else. Anyway, we'll keep you updated with that. Last I saw, he's on 367, so he's a little bit behind Lara's second top score. Imagine if your second top score is 375, by the way. But anyway, that's a different conversation for another day. I want to talk about Jamie Smith. You're a wicketkeeper who bats. He's a wicketkeeper who bats. Here's my thing about him that I find remarkable. When he decides to hit a ball really, really hard, he's so accurate at where he's aiming. The amount of time, there was a point at times, I can't remember who's bowling, but it was like Akash or Siraj, and they moved them.
Prasid for sure. Prasid took a lot of.
It might have been Prasid. I'm trying to remember, but they had a long on in, and he'd hit the ball over deep mid wicket. So they moved the long on 15 meters around, right? So it's still there, but just a wider long on. And the next ball, he takes from outside off stump, but he punches straight through the long on area for 4. And I was like, the accuracy when you are hitting the ball as hard as Jamie. I don't know that many players I've seen who are that accurate with when they are muscling the ball, because he's muscling it. Like, he really is hitting it so hard.
He's a strong lad.
Oh, he's big. He's 6'2". He's just really, really, it's incredible to watch the placement with the power. It's not something you always see, because a lot of powerful players don't worry about placement as much, right? Because they just hit it so hard.
Yeah, and I think with him, he's really good at the short ball, and is he from Edgbaston or from that same county? Because
no,
it seemed like he knew that wicket really well. But it's also a thing about wicket keeping, right? Yeah, it's also a thing about wicket keeping, right? When you wicket keep for like 115 overs, you know exactly what the wicket's like, right? And you know how it's gonna come. You know what balls deviate, and you're watching the seam, so you know from the seam if the ball's gonna deviate or not, and how much it's perhaps gonna do. And so with that, that's a lot of information to go with, which is why, in Test cricket, if you're a wicketkeeper bat, and if you've got the ability to bat well, and you bat in at number 5 or 6, and you have good batters around you, it takes a lot of pressure off you. And then with the information you have, you can really kind of go hammer on tongs at the bowlers. And he did that, man. His short ball game is just amazing. And you gotta, like, balls were doled up to him there. Some easy hits, right? It weren't like head high bouncers. They were like just chest high attempted bouncers, I would say. And for me, that you can't bowl that to a batter who's scoring like batting so well in an innings, right? And he's playing so well both on the offside and on the onside. I couldn't find an area during the course of this Test match where like, okay, you bowl the ball here, he's going to struggle. I think you really have to scrutinize his batting a little bit more. See where, go to the uncomfortables that's chalked up by every analyst. Like, 'cause there's one thing, right? So if he's played the ball well, if it's a dot ball, if it's played well, then it's like, okay, dot ball. But if it's a dot ball, but it was an uncomfortable dot ball, it's marked under uncomfortables. So
you're talking my language now, Robbie. That's my favorite thing in the world to look at for any player. Like, I love that.
Yeah, so you go in, and the bowlers will have to study that a little bit. The bowling coach will certainly be doing that. You know that Morne will be doing that right now, and I think more than anything, like, you got to give credit to the Indian team, to the belief that they showed just as a group, and you kind of saw that, right? There you go, him at Edgbaston, 10, 88, 88, 95, 184. Happy hunting ground for him.
I think Gokul said before as well. He played there for the Phoenix as well. So.
Yeah.
So he is used to it, but yeah, he's a Surrey boy. Surrey rate him incredibly high. They think he's one of the best batting prospects that's come out of Surrey in a long time.
Great wicket keeper as well.
Well, that's what I was going to say. So Tim Wigmore's just written a piece going, is he batting so well that they have to take the gloves off him? And that's why that's kind of what I wanted to ask you.
No, never.
Because you could give them back to Ollie Pope and move Ollie Pope down to 7 and use Jamie Smith up the order.
Why would you want to give the gloves to Ollie Pope? Is he a wicketkeeper by like...
Everyone in England's a wicketkeeper. You know this.
No. Why fix something that's not broken? Ollie Pope just got 100 in the previous test match. This guy's batting really well. Let him continue to bat and keep. He's keeping really well as well. It's not like looks like he's got a calm head on his shoulders. Like, don't muck around with stuff. Like, I wouldn't want to touch it. I would want to just let him go and, because England's also looking for the next batter after Joe Root. Now, Harry Brook on that in that case, like, everyone's like pegging Ollie Pope to be the guy, but I think it could be one of these two guys as well, Harry or Jamie Smith.
Well, I think if let's say Root doesn't play, I think you want to keep Brook at 5, and you probably want Smith at 4. I think Smith's technique looks a little bit more sound to me at the moment, just because there's so many moving parts to Harry Brook's technique at times. As good as he is and everything else, I'm like, and we'll get on to number 5s in a minute, why I think he should stay there. But I just think there's something about that. But it's really interesting. If he bats at 4, though, does he keep wicket keeping?
He doesn't need to bat at 4. And if he bats
no, I'm saying
if
Root leaves. And
I would like if Root leaves, who are the other options that you have at number 4?
I mean, you've moved Brook to number 4. That's the other obvious one at the moment, isn't it?
No, I think he's very touchy about his numbers. So if he's gotten success at number 5, I don't think he would want to move out of number 5.
Yeah, no, it's just an interesting one for the future. Anyway. There is something else I want to talk about. Obviously, I had this fascinating conversation with Steve Harmison. By the way, it's lunch in that other game, so we don't have to worry about Vian Mulder for a little while here, who is 367 not out from 334 balls.
Yeah,
so I was talking to Steve Harmison, and I was saying that I was getting lots of messages from English fans who were very upset with the fact that England weren't trying to block out the last 30 overs, that they kept slogging, and that they were laughing on the balcony. And Steve Harmison put it this way. He's like, you have to understand that for people who played in this game played for England, English cricket was such a miserable environment, the change room, for so many times. And it wasn't fun and it wasn't enjoyable and everything else. These players are having fun, and you can't take the fact that they score 380 in one chase, right? And know that they've done that in part because of the way that they play. And then in the next one that they've given it up when they could have blocked out for 30 more overs, when they probably wouldn't have been able to block out for 30 more overs as well. It's an interesting one because I can understand why English fans are upset because essentially what they are looking for is perfection. They want the team that can chase 380 and then can also block out with their tail end for 35 overs. That's not exactly what this side is. We know that. Even when we start to use Bazball with brains and everything else, there is still an element of them flip-flopping wildly, this team, right?
See, England are always upset, right? With one thing or the other. So,
all fan bases are always upset with one thing or another. There's someone in South Africa right now going, "Why is Liam Mulder batting so long? We're going to lose this Test match. We're not going to be. Sorry, we're not going to be able to win this Test match. It's going to be a draw." All fan bases are always upset.
Yeah. Yeah, but see, the thing is, with one thing I noticed and one thing I liked about this is the fact that this entire England team has made peace with the way that they are going to play, the brand of cricket that they are going to play, and they are perfectly comfortable losing a few test matches, playing this brand of cricket. And I think it's, why can I hear myself?
So I
Can you hear me?
accidentally clicked on my phone. That's why.
I'm like, why am I like?
I
Where
was
is this
listening
coming
to our
from?
show. It was so entertaining. I
No,
was
you
like,
weren't.
maybe I could speak on it and listen to it at the same time.
Okay.
Apologies, everyone.
No,
That was the
I
fox.
was just
The fox did that.
so I was actually quite impressed with the fact that they were having a good time. So they're very secure with the plans they have for themselves and the brand of cricket that they're going to be playing. And at the end of the day, when they win test matches, you're going to applaud and you're going to say, "Oh wow, this is amazing! 380 runs in a day. What? How do they do that? It's amazing. It's great." But they were still trying to score 500 runs in one day, guys. And they were up against the wall and they came out punching and they lost. It's fine. But that's their brand of cricket. So if you can't take the good, then you got to take the bad as well. That's what I think. And I think they as a group have made peace with it, and that's the most important thing. Then the others are opinions, right? You know what they say about opinions.
Yeah.
Everyone's got them.
And buttholes. But so I think there is an element of. I think at times they have tried to play a slightly smarter version of baseball during the series, right?
Yeah, they have. But that's going to happen, right? It's gonna get refined over a period of time.
It has to, yeah.
Like as you keep doing it, it's gonna start off as one thing, but as time goes by, it's gonna evolve and get better and better and better, and that is the long process of evolution of the game as well, right? We saw a spike, and then we saw correction, and now we're seeing a gradual upward movement, rather than another spike and drop. It's spike and drop, and so they've made peace with this, and they're like, okay, how do we refine this? And that's what they're doing right now.
Just on this, talking about England, this is what the issue is, though, publicly. So Manava says, what do you make of Ben Stokes' statement that it turned into a subcontinent wicket? Sounded to me like it spun a bit, hence this doesn't count. But this is what I know that you've got to understand that a lot of the comments that England make as a team now are made for the change room and not for the public or the press, right? That doesn't justify them, but that is a true thing. They're basically admitted this. They lost 17 or 18 wickets to seam in this match. I'm not saying that Ben Stokes would have that in front of him, Robbie, but they lost almost all their wickets to seam. Basically, what he's saying is, I found it very hard to play Ravi Jadeja because the ball was coming out of the footmarks a lot. Yeah, and so I get it. I completely understand. At no stage covering this test match did I turn to anyone around me and go, "Do you know what this is like? A subcontinental wicket." This was like a proper flat English wicket. That's what it looked like all the way through.
And like I remember in 2006 and 7 when the Ashes happened, or 5 and 6 when the Ashes happened, Shane Warne was getting the ball to turn off the rough exactly like Jaddu was trying to do.
Yeah,
exactly the same thing. Nothing different.
It doesn't happen all that much, but it does happen in summers where it's dry. And we talked about this before. I think someone put a comment in before, why doesn't England do a green top and bring all their seamers in? And so I don't think you could have a green top at Edgbaston at the moment. It's been so dry. In fact, the only rain that they got was during the test match, and that was apocalyptic, but only lasted for 5 minutes, luckily for India. But there hasn't been a lot of rain around it. I say that. My actual house was flooded yesterday, but that's a different one as well. But yeah, I think that's quite interesting. But again, it's...
Where do you live, Jarrod? Foxes are eating your cables, your house is getting flooded because of a 5-minute rain. Where the heck do you live, dude?
I will send you the photo of the rain yesterday. Did you see the rain when it happened in Edgbaston as well? I thought I was in Gaul or Brisbane. Right? It's like, where is this weird tropical thunder, tropical rain drop? You know when you're in Brisbane and the rain just comes down in a sheet?
Stop evading the question.
I live in London. It's about global warming. El Nino? I don't know. I want to talk about one other thing. Did you read the Sid Monga piece on Cricinfo this week about the softballs and everything?
No.
This is really fascinating. So from 2016 until 2021, balls in England are nipping around everywhere, right? It's unplayable. It's really hard to bat even with against the old ball, right? There were some times when it was like, remember there was a test match in New Zealand played, and it was like, I think New Zealand were like, is there any point giving this ball away? It is swinging so much, even though it's the 80 over mark, that will a new one actually swing more than this? So there was plenty of swing, there was plenty of seam. In 2022, there was a manufacturing error with the Duke's balls, and they all went really, really soft. And it was completely by accident, and I trust Dukes when they say that. Since then, Robbie, we haven't had Duke's balls that have been hard again. They quite often go soft, and you're seeing it in county cricket as much as you're seeing it anywhere else. So we know that this is an issue. It is possible, and I say this, let me give you the full story. We know that England have asked for batting pitches at times at home.
Oh, listen, you don't even have to tell me all this. I already know what I'm going to say.
Yeah. But did you see the boundary at this ground? So I had Lizzie Ammon from the Times rushing down the press box to say to me, Jarrod, is that where the boundary normally is? And I looked up and I was like, that is 10 meters in. And I literally went and had a look. Remember when Bumrah made that 35 or 36 runs off and over or whatever it was?
Yeah.
I went and had a look, Robbie, at where the boundaries were. They were like 10 meters further back in every direction when Jasper was, hooking all those balls and top edging all those balls, right? And so then we ask around. No one obviously says it officially, but also no one said that England didn't ask for this to happen. Is it possible that they have asked for the balls to remain soft because it actually helps in the baseball style? That's my question.
Listen, we know that the whole narrative about in England about making it a little bit more conducive for batters to score runs because the English batters don't have a lot of confidence. And you're not finding the next big English batter coming through the ranks after Ben Stokes and Joe Root. And now they're putting a lot of those hopes on Ollie Pope and Harry Brook, right? And which is why the wickets also in domestic cricket there have become a lot more flatter, drier. So that's a lot more easier for batters to score runs and come through the ranks. Because if the ball's doing if it's doing a little bit, then, the batters are finding themselves at bay completely. So I'm not surprised that if they could be saying it was an error that happened in 2021, but the balls have continued to remain the same quality. So then you can tell, and that was perhaps just a narrative that needed to be created, and hope that would be forgotten.
I think to be fair, if you look back in that year that it happened, that was before Bazball or anything else. I think, and it was also at the back end of COVID. I think I'm willing to admit that is possible. The fact that it's still happening, I think, is far more likely that it is.
And so I think the narrative has been set in that way to make it a lot more conducive for batters to score runs.
Yeah, exactly.
And the thing is, earlier when even in the mid 2010s or the early 2010s, even when the Indian team came there, you had one really top bowler and then the other ones you could really kind of manage and negate and all of that, right? Not the kind of bowling attack that augured you to take 20 wickets in a test match, right? And then they had to work really, really hard to be able to get that. And now that's not the case. You got a solid batting attack, you got a solid bowling attack, you got a bowling attack that was right up to a year and a half ago, had Jamie Anderson, had Stuart Broad, and the likes of the other bowlers, Chris Wokes, Jofra Archer. It's a solid bowling lineup, and that can definitely take 20 wickets and then some. But you also had against India, you had the likes of Bumrah, you had Shami, you had late stage career Ishant Sharma, who was super effective. You had Umesh Yadav. So these are all equally good bowlers who can also get 20 wickets in a test match. So you want to be able to counter that and give yourself as much advantage as possible at home. So these are narratives that are set, but I think that you can see the sense of it as to why England are trying to do it, and they're trying to do it for their own good. And that's fair, especially in home conditions.
Well, this is the thing of South Africa were the first team to really just be like, we're just going to make our wickets exactly how we want them, and it's going to suit our cricket. India obviously followed suit. We've had Pakistan have gone all in on it recently, right? Like Pakistan started winning when they reused the same pitch twice, right? And they had like jet fans trying to dry the surface in some places. And if England is doing that, it makes sense. It's in first class cricket, because I watch so much first class cricket. to me, this is a normal thing. But if you don't watch first-class cricket and you only watch Test cricket, generally teams didn't do this in Test cricket. There was like a gentleman's rule that you would try and make the wickets quite fair. Whereas now everyone's like, no, we need points for the World Test Championship. We need to win this next match.
Gentlemen, that's gone out. That's gone out the door 10 years ago.
Exactly. And so I think it's fine. But also, we have to, people like you and me and Monga have to keep our eye on this stuff, right? We have to be talking about it and everything else. There's a couple
I'm all for being a romantic of the game, right? I'm all for it, right? I'm all for this game being a gentleman's game, but it has to be a gentleman's game across the board, through and through, right? It can't be like one team's like this and the other team's like this and the other team's another way. That's not going to work, right? People can get taken advantage of, and teams can get taken advantage of, and so you got to really do what works for you and give yourself the best chance to be successful, especially in home conditions. And I don't care a lot for bitching and moaning about, how wickets are playing in foreign conditions. And like, if you're playing cricket at the highest level, then you got to be good enough to tackle all of it. And you see the best players in the world are the ones that want to get the best out of them. They don't really talk about conditions. They talk about what needs to be done in those conditions.
I know you love it when I drop in a random history thing, but you do know when they use the phrase gentleman's game, they mean a very specific kind of person. It doesn't mean male.
Oh, I don't know this. Go for it.
So gentlemen versus players was the famous cricket game. The gentlemen were the people from the establishment, the landed gentry, the one percenters, right? So they were the people who had their full names on the scorecard with all their titles and everything else. And then the professionals were the people who were paid to play cricket. It's funny that we've never called it a professionals game. We've always called it the gentleman's game. And that was basically a class thing, right? And so much so that up until 1950s, to captain England, you essentially had to come from, to paraphrase Giles Clarke, the right kind of family, right? We still heard that was the Alistair Cook phrase. He very much comes from the kind of family that we want the English captain to come from, right? Like, it's so coded all the way through. And so when people, because you'll get this a lot, people say, oh, it's a gentleman's game. They don't mean people with working class backgrounds. They don't mean people who are professionals. They literally mean princes and landed gentry and the sorts of
aristocrats, basically.
Aristocrats and all that sort of stuff. So it's very important that when we use that phrase, we know exactly what we are talking about, because we don't want it to be a gentleman's game. We don't even want it to be a male game. We want it to be a sport for the people. Right, going ahead, and that's what we have to do. I thought you'd like that one. All right.
Yes, that's quite nice, actually. Thank you for sharing that with me. I didn't know that.
Number 5s in Test cricket. If you had played Test cricket, where do you think? I mean, obviously the batting lineup was ridiculous when you played, but if Robbie had his own way, where would you have batted? Do you think in Test cricket? Because obviously in first class cricket, you would have batted slightly higher up the order just because that most talented players.
I opened the batting for the most part of my first class career. So I would have, and in fact, I was close once. I was between KL Rahul and me. We were playing the Duleep Trophy, and the first game was in Lali in Haryana. And I got 136 in that ground, which was one of the hardest grounds to bat on in India, and batted all the way through, and like the entire team got out and I was not out. And then the Australian tour was happening next, so they were going to pick openers for that. And then the second in the finals, KL and I were batting, and then KL got 100 in the first innings. I got 88 in the first innings. He got 180, I got 88. And then I got, I think, 35, 40 perhaps in the second innings, and he got another 80 or 100. And then he went through ahead of me to Australia, and that's when he made his debut. So if I'd played Test cricket, I reckon I'd have opened the batting, but I would have loved to bat at number 6 and number 5 and number 6.
Well, it's funny because I don't see you as a Test opener, but I do see you as someone who would bat number 5 and number 6. And I specifically think you'd be very suited to batting number 5 as it is currently played. And so we've been talking about this for a little while in our group of Harry Brook, Travis Head, Rishabh Pant. There's obviously Mendes is coming through. Even someone like Chandimal was playing some more shots when he was batting at number 5 as well. there's this real change in the way that number fives play Test cricket, and it's fascinating. And I think again, it goes back to the English dominating the sport. So in the old days, England would obviously make sure. If you look at most of the early English great batters, so Grace, Hobbs, Sutcliffe, Hutton, Boycott, they're all openers, right? So generally in England, you have to have your best player opening the batting, because if not, you're 20 for 3, right? Like you've just lost all your other players. As other countries come into Test cricket, they start to go, why would we want our best players opening? We can stick in a stoic player up the top or a more limited player up the top, and then allow, when the ball's a little bit soft, for the rest of our team to take over. And then in the 90s, and this is fascinating. I don't know if you've ever talked to him about this, but I always thought it was fascinating as a fan. I was only a young kid back then, that Sachin never went to number 3. Because realistically, the best batters had mostly batted at number 3. There's a couple of players who batted at 4, but generally the best batter always went to number 3. And if you look at the history of West Indies and Australia, right, the vast majority of those players batted at number 3. There's a couple of Alan Border type players who don't, right, but the vast majority do. Sachin bats at 3, and then it's like Brian Lara looks at that and goes, Sachin bats at 4, and it's like Brian Lara looks at that and goes, why am I going in at 3 then? So he moves to 4, Callis moves to 4, and from that point onwards, number 4 becomes the position where you automatically put your best player. Yeah. In this modern era, because I know this is not, we've just seen 2 of the highest scoring Test matches of all time, and VM Mulder's about to score 900 runs. But over the last couple of years, wickets have been so hard that batting at number 4 has become difficult, because you're in so early in the chase. In the innings, which means that now I've got a feeling that the number 5 is becoming the most important position. But on top of that, you're seeing counter-attacking number 5s. And if you look at the history of number 5s, generally they are a lot more dour and a lot more defensive. And so some of that is just because cricket is more attacking. But you watch Rishabh Pant come out, or you watch Harry Brook come. Like Harry Brook was at his 3rd ball. They're in all sorts of problems. And he just runs down the wicket and he tries to smash the ball over mid-off for 4. Right? Cricket has changed so much, and the number 5 position is the one where you can notice it the most, because we're now seeing more runs at number 5 than any other position, which is not something we've seen consistently in cricket, and they are doing it in a really, really attacking way.
And that's also because the way cricket's played right now, right? And when you look at, just the approach to cricket right now, approach to Test cricket, and the fact that we were speaking to the fact that the boundary lines at at Birmingham were brought in by 10 meters, tells you a story not just about say any particular board, but also broadcasters and how they want cricket to be viewed, right? And that's a small bit that we missed in that last conversation. And I think cricket's also, the business side of cricket has a much larger role within the sport of cricket today than it ever had before. There are certain narratives set about what, because of the amount of, or the volume of money involved today, there is a precedence for a narrative to be set in cricket, right? And I think baseball and the likes of this all kind of root from that place than from a place of, okay, let's switch the way we play, right? But kudos to the English cricket team and to McCullum to have been able to stick through this and refine it even further and make it into an evolved system, right? I'm still not a believer, as in I think it's got its room to exist within Test cricket, but I don't think it can become all of Test cricket. I still think the game will test you in the course of those 5 days, and you will have to overcome those tests and prove that you're better in those 5 days, 5 consecutive days. And I think that there is room for players like Head and Pant and Brook and the likes of them, right? There is space for that. And it does make cricket all the more entertaining and so much more fun to watch, result oriented. You always want results in Test cricket. And I think when you look at it from that point of view, you're not surprised to see these guys batting the way they are right now. And I think you'll see this kind of batting a lot more with time to come. If you've been following Vaibhav Suryavansh's exploits at in England, then you will see that everyone. So if he's really bringing in so much attention to under 19 cricket, can you imagine what the rest of the batters in that team are thinking? We got to outdo this. So they're gonna keep trying to outdo each other, and some of that stuff is gonna stick, and some of those people are gonna play cricket at the highest levels, and so you're gonna see a lot of that coming through the ranks as well over the next 10 years.
I was watching Rishabh Pant, and something really occurred to me that I hadn't thought about that much before, and we'll be doing a video on it later in the week. But it's the way he creates his own length, right? So whether he's facing his, there's a shot he plays where he is playing a pull shot, right? But he's playing a pull shot from the position of a sweep. It's not a sweep.
Yeah,
like if you watch,
it's more a pickup than a pull. So he's waiting for that length ball into his.
Oh, I'm talking about the one from the spinners. You're talking about the pickup shot. Yeah, the one from the one from the quicks is really interesting too. Yeah, talking about the one with the spinners. But yeah, the amount of I think there's about 4 or 5 different shots that he has where he is creating his own length, and sometimes he moves back in the crease, sometimes he moves forwards. Sometimes he moves sideways or whatever, or sometimes he just moves his body. It's really fascinating to see that, and it's so different to what traditional cricket is, which is trying to overcome the good length, right? By just seeing it out. Where he's just like, well, if they keep bowling a good length to me and a good line, I'm eventually just going to nick off, or I'm going to get bowled or LBW. Whereas if they bowl the good length and I've turned it into something else, I can hit it. And we saw the same with England when they used to come down the wicket quite a lot. Pakistan and New Zealand batting out of their crease. We've seen a few teams try this recently, but it's so fascinating that when the bowlers got on top, the way that the batters have just disrupted them is just by basically saying, well, I can back my attacking shots and I'm going to make sure you can't bowl the Vernon Philander, the Glenn McGrath, the Kapil Dev, the Richard Hadley lengths, right? You don't have that option available to you.
Right? That's gone across the board. I think it's gone across Test cricket in itself, and which is why bowlers find it that much more harder to hit one particular length consistently, because they have to second guess what the batter's going to do and anticipate what the batter's going to do based on his patterns. And what is this, 20?
Pant averages 20 with a strike rate of 200 when he steps out on length balls.
I should be on this on your other podcasts a lot more to understand all this.
That's all right. I just think it's fascinating, and I think the number 5 position is the one that makes the most sense. And openers have started to obviously be a lot more attacking as well, but a lot of that is around the sort of the Duckett and the Crawley, whereas I think the other one is just a general.
I'm worried about. I'm worried about Zach Crawley.
Well, I think everyone's worried about Zach Crawley.
Yeah, he's.
Oh no! Declared. South Africa declared.
That is a pity. That is just so sad.
He would have the highest score from a South African already, wouldn't he? I don't think any South African.
No, wasn't it Barry Richards who got 370 something?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, Barry Richards got 370. He got over 300, I'm sure.
He got over 300. I don't think it was 370 because that would have been the world record. And Barry Richards definitely didn't have the world record. Barry Richards never went past 140 in a test match. Made 356. By the way, the Barry Richards, 311 Amla. Yeah, that makes sense. The Barry Richards and Harry Brook bat very similar. And one day I'm going to show you footage of Barry Richards and see if you agree. But I think there's an element of that as well. Also, if Barry Richards ever made the world record score, we would never stop hearing him talk about it. All right. I love Barry, but that is also true. All right. We've got some great super chats here. Kaushal says, who should be first change in next game for India? I am going Jasprit Bumrah.
Instead of whom?
No, I think I mean, you could. There's no way they're going to do it, but you could make an argument that if you have Siraj and Akash bowling with the new ball, Bumrah becomes even more potent at first change, and you use him in the Pat Cummins way. But they're not going to do that. But that's how I would look at it. I would say that if I was the analyst, Robbie, I would say that at the meeting and then go over and tell Jasper how great I thought he was straight afterwards.
I think he'll come in instead of Prasidh Krishna.
Yeah.
And that's the only kind of change I would.
No, but I think he's saying who's the first change bowler? Do you move Siraj to first change? Keep Akash with the new ball, or do you swap and do the other way around?
I wouldn't want to not use Akash, so I think and they can try one innings Akash, one innings Siraj, and see who does.
But
better
you see
with
why I actually think Bumrah makes more sense bowling at first change, just because it gives you the other two the maximum, and then it's like Australia, because what happens is the minute you get past the new ball, and then Jasper Bumrah starts bowling at you. Like, I can understand why they wouldn't want to do that as well. And, you know, occasionally Australia still use Pat Cummins with the new ball. But he's so good with the ball when it's slightly old as well. So, anyway, as I said, I would say that, and then I would go over and apologise for saying it afterwards. Shubman says, is this a moral win for England? All things in cricket are moral wins for England at the moment. As India gave a target of 600 plus, not 480 or 500, fearing England might chase with time in hand. I heard Butcher mentioning this in the Sky Show. I'll tell you this from what the Indian fans were telling me. I haven't talked to anyone in the Indian camp, but from the Indian fans at the ground were desperate for the score to be over 550 or 600, because the way they think about England at the moment does affect it. And I wouldn't say it's a moral win, but I would say that teams are very, very aware now that you can't let England have a chance, right? And I've said this from the start with Bazball. The thing about Bazball is it's so extreme that you have to kill it off. Once you score over 600, once you lead by over 600, you have killed it off, right? Yes, they could have gone on a bit of a tear and got close if they batted better against the new ball. But chances are they weren't going to be able to do it just because it's too many runs.
Yeah, and it's Test cricket. If you have the opportunity and the luxury to be safe as a team batting third and putting in as many runs as possible. Now you're telling me if England if England had the opportunity to put up 600 runs on the board against India, irrespective of what the batting order is, irrespective of what brand of cricket they were playing, you think they wouldn't have put it up anyway? You think they would have scored only 500 runs and give them like a day and 2 sessions to score those runs? Absolutely not.
Also, and I think this hasn't been talked about enough, why would you not want to tire England out as much as possible in the second test of the series, right? Like, Carter already looked tired. Wokes is coming back from injury. They'll have to make changes. I mean, they've already decided to bring Archer and Atkinson in, but Bashir is having to bowl a lot of overs when he doesn't usually have to bowl a lot. And all the batters had to stay out in the field. Like, one thing we've forgotten, and, you know, Bumble was talking about this the other day, is when you're an opening batter and you spend 2 days in the field or a day and a half in the field, it is really hard to go out and bat. So sometimes keeping them out as long as possible also helps with taking wickets.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. And think also, right, as in, I don't really have much to add to this, because to be honest, even broadcasters have narratives to follow, guys. So don't go by everything that you hear, and just
every broadcaster in the world wants the game to finish earlier, because they're in a situation where they want to go play golf. Yeah. So when broadcasters are complaining about late declarations, it is 100% because they've already booked a golf game on day 4 and they don't understand why this is going on. And me and Robbie, are you a golfer?
No, paddle.
See, me and Robbie are not golfers, so we've heard these conversations a million times before. Me and Robbie just want to go back and see our family. The rest of them want to spend more time away from their family and play golf.
No, Jarrod wants to go back and meet his fox.
Fox. Parth says, my dad says Kumble and Kapil made other Indian seamers too safe. Siraj's numbers are way better without Bumrah. Is he doing the same? I'm going to throw this to you. I've got a theory, and this is, Bumrah is unlike any bowler we have ever seen in the entire history of the game, right? Like, he's great. We compared him to Wasim Akram. I think that's a good comparison. Sid Barnes is another good guy to compare him to. Malcolm Marshall's another good guy to compare him to. But he is different, and there is a vibe shift every time he has the balls, unlike any bowler I've ever seen. And I watched McGrath and Warne and, Stain and all these guys, right? At their peaks. There's something different when Bumrah has the ball. I compare this to the Denver Nuggets basketball team when Nikola Jokic is the 7-foot center and he's also the point guard. And so you play a different sport with him on the court than you do anywhere else. And the minute he goes off the court, no matter who they have on the bench, it always goes to shit, right? But when Joker is not playing in the game and they just have to play normal basketball, they play it. there is an element of role definition of playing the sport differently. And I said this to Sid Monga, and he made fun of me, but Sid's wrong on this one. But the point being is, I do think that when you have someone like Bumrah in the side at the other end, it changes the way that you think as a competitor, as a professional, as a bowler, and everything else. And sometimes you can't help but be sucked in to the gravity of Jasprit Bumrah. Whereas when he doesn't play at all, you just go back to playing normal cricket, right? You might not be successful. I think Siraj's numbers being so much better when Bumrah isn't in the side is a little bit of fluky as well. But I do think it changes the way that you think when he's not in the side.
I got to say that Parth, in general in our podcasts, have asked us some really interesting questions. So kudos to you, buddy. I think keep them coming. It also is about, I agree with what you're saying to a certain degree, because it's also about the narratives that are set by the teams when you find a once in a generation player, right? You like for things to revolve around that particular player. And oftentimes you might find another top quality bowler, but who loves the attention of being your number one strike bowler, and then suddenly has to take a back seat, and he has to contend with that, right? Emotionally, mentally, psychologically contend with that. And that weighs on you as well and can have an impact on your performance as well. And then suddenly when you get the opportunity to go out there and be the lead bowler and be everything that you desire to be at that level, suddenly you feel like, oh, here's an opportunity. Let me go up and like grab it with both my hands and make the most of it. And I think you can tend to see that with someone like Siraj. But I do think in test matches you bowl in pairs and you hunt in pairs. So he can still play that role. His numbers can be a lot better even when Bumrah's around.
Jayan says, you don't beat India by playing on roads. They'll bat for days. If Australia bat well and England continue to play like this, the Ashes will be carnage. Jahan, I don't know if you've been watching Australia's batting of recent times, but I don't think there's anyone in the world who thinks there is a chance of Australia batting well at the moment. It's not looking good over there. The Australian wickets will be fascinating because they won't be anything like this. They won't be roads. They're going to be darting all over the place. And Australia's top order is not handling that situation particularly well. So, yeah, I don't think we have to quite throw ahead to the Ashes at the moment. But if you're picking which is the better batting lineup between these two teams right now, I think we know it's probably not Australia.
Yeah.
Avalash says, what's Stokes' future after the Ashes? Hardly bowls 10 overs a day. Against spin, he is trash. Tries to block in the beginning in hopes of opening up later on. Hardly works out. He's mostly working on vibes, and it's being called now. So, I don't know if you saw my piece yesterday, mate, but he's faced 190 professional deliveries this year. It's hard to get in form when you don't bat very much, and then if you continue to not make any runs. I think he spent the last 6 months getting fit for bowling again, and I think it's taken a bit of a toll on his batting.
Yeah, and when you're playing Test cricket, especially red ball cricket, you want to be able to, play as many balls as possible, and find a routine. And I think leading up to any red ball cricket, you want to be able to in your prep leading up to a test match or leading up to a game, right? You want to really peak with the number of balls you face, say 4 days before the test match, and then taper down and bat those minimum number of balls that you want to face just to kind of get set, right? So if you are playing, say, in prep before a test match or in prep before a test series, you want to be batting leading up 1 week to the tournament, to the series. You want to be batting at least 2,500 deliveries a week at practice, and then the last week of practice you want to bring it down to about 750, or last 5 days before practice, 750 split over 4 or 5 sessions. You want to, and then that is like the minimum number of balls you want to play. So those are much shorter sessions, but you've prepped your body up to bat for that long.
Yeah.
Right. You want to be able to and try and stay not out one, and then you in practice leading up to practice. So that gives you the confidence as well going into a test match, and you challenge yourself, play on new balls from both ends, or play multiple new balls, play on uncovered wickets that has a little bit of dew on it. Kind of challenge yourself. Play with a middling bat. This is stuff that I did before a test, before red ball cricket, first class cricket, and it really helped me a lot. And I don't think he's done that because he's obviously working on his batting, on his bowling, to be bowling fit as well. He's lost a bunch of weight, so he must have been training quite hard as well. So to keep all of those things in mind, are you surprised? But he's never really been the best batter or the greatest batter of spin bowling.
No.
He's always been pretty ordinary against spin. He's been
He's
really
got
good
that
against
weird-
fast bowling.
He's got that bat lift.
His
that sort of
hands
comes
on the
from
bat are very different. It limits
Yeah.
his game quite a bit. But if he opens his I think it's his bottom hand. If he opens up his bottom hand just a touch, and it's a little bit of work, but you like. It's also this, right? When a certain technique has brought you a certain amount of success and a lot of success at the highest level, why would you want to change it now? You know,
No, exactly.
People get
Honestly,
people are very touchy about that.
I don't think he's batting particularly well against pace bowling at the moment either. Like, I just don't think he's seeing the ball in a way that he has before. So I think there's some issues there. After the Ashes, I don't know how long he's going to play for, but if he's just done everything he can to lose weight, I don't think he's about to retire in the next 6 months, would be my guess.
No.
Lentil says, is Bashir the best spinner in England that England's got, really? No, he's probably not. Jack Leach is probably still their best spinner. They don't think Jack Leach can play on flat wickets. They're trying to get Bashir to a level that I think their thought process is that Bashir's best ball is better than Jack Leach's. They've also got Liam Dawson, who has had a great late career run and can bat and everything else.
Wasn't Simon Harmer also there for a certain period of time as a cold pack?
Yeah, but I don't think he ever qualified to play for England, though.
Didn't he? I thought he did in between.
No, because he went back
He
and
was
played for South Africa. So he couldn't
He's
have
a
qualified for England.
really good off spinner, man.
Yeah.
He's really, really good.
There are very good off spinners and finger spinners from overseas that come over and play occasionally. Look, the thing with Bashir is he's a project player, but it does feel at certain times like they are playing in games with 10 players. Like, that they are trying to carry him in the hopes that one day this works a little bit more. Varun saying the road call I saw was to move Stokes to 8 and bring Bethel in for Bashir. The thing is, I've seen Bethel bowl a lot. Bethel is not a better bowler than Bashir. I don't even think he's close to being better than Bashir. There aren't a lot of good spinners in England, and that is not. I mean, if you think of Bashir and Moeen Ali, these are both guys who developed.
I'd say
later.
Mo right now is better than Bashir.
Yeah,
Mo now.
But do you remember when Mo was when he was first picked? He was like a batter who had one good delivery that he could occasionally do. It took him a long time to get good.
I reckon
as well.
England forced him to become an all-rounder. I think he was actually just an out-and-out batter.
Yeah, well, I think he starts bowl. I don't think he even starts bowling till he's 24. So he did start to bowl for Worcestershire, but I don't think he took it seriously for a long period.
No, because he was an out-and-out batter.
Yeah. And a very good one as well.
A really good one, and I think they actually, I think personally for him, if he felt badly about his career, or if he felt like a victim in his career, he would feel. I would say he was right to feel so, because I think they undervalued his effectiveness as a batter and tried to make him into an all-rounder, and they just played him in terrible positions, man. I think he was a top order batter, batted at number 8 for England in all forms of cricket. Just shit, to be honest.
He batted everywhere as well. Like, if he just batted at 8, that was fine. But he opened, he batted 3, he batted 5. It was all over the place. One day I'm going to do a piece to see which player they tried to ruin quicker, Bairstow or Moeen Ali. But that's a conversation for another day. Abhishek says, can you bring Nitish Reddy in at number 3 if you are coach? Oh, another false 3. Hey, a false 3 almost broke the world record today. So why not bring Nitish in as your false 3?
No. I wouldn't do that.
Neither of us are going to do that. Shubman says, Robbie, but if India don't feel safe at a 480 target, do you think they'll still be able to defend 300 some other day, as you will feel on the back foot from start? A lot of that also depends on the wicket. On this was a wicket you did need a lot of runs.
Shubham, see, I'm going to tell you this. I reckon, now before this test match, did anyone give India a chance to win the test match, let alone be in the test match, right? But India won the test match, right? I think it tells you a story that you can't write off any team, you can't write off any bowler. And honestly, when, for example, that famous test match where Virat Kohli says the next 60 overs, they want to give them hell. What were the chances of India winning that test match? They were behind. and they still gave them hell and won the test match, right? It's all about intensity. It's all about belief and confidence. And today, after the test match, a day after the test match, we can safely say that this team believed in itself and believed that without Bumrah, each one of them believed that they could win this test match. And that's why they won the test match. So if you're asking me, if India didn't feel safe at 480, I disagree with you about that. I genuinely feel that they probably felt safe at 350 or 400. But if you had the opportunity to run the opposition to the ground, why won't you take it when it's right there for the taking?
Yeah, and also make sure you can't
It's about
lose.
being tactically sound, right, at that point in time, to give yourself as much of an advantage, as much of the upper hand. When you have the upper hand, why be docile about it? Like, go on and drive them to the ground.
Yeah, I've got no issue with that. Also, would say that as much as England are very good at chasing, they are also really, really good at collapsing. Right? We've seen plenty of collapses in this era. They haven't really collapsed in this series yet.
And they made peace with that fact, haven't they, Jarrod?
Yeah.
In the sense that they're okay with it because they're owning their brand of cricket.
Exactly.
Right?
So you could so if you know that going in, you could easily defend 300. You could defend less than that against England because they have the ability to go out for 120. Like,
yeah, they can implode. It all depends on the situation of the test match and the state of the game is at.
Siraj says popularity over results, still the mantra for baseball. He means baseball, but I tell you what, it does auto-correct to baseball a lot, which really annoys me. They could have drawn the test had they played a bit more circumspect on day 4. Yes.
But that's not the brand of cricket they want to play, Sid. They want to play this brand of cricket. So,
but also, and you would also go back to, would they have been able to chase 380 the way that they did if they had this kind of mindset? Like, it isn't just about the other popularity.
Yeah, it's not a popularity contest. I think it's just that this is how they want to play cricket, and they've settled down with it. So, yeah, there are different ways, and for example, there are day traders, and then there are long-term investors, right? Choose your poison. It's the same thing.
Vibot says, who would you say are the next Fab Four in tests after? You know who the other guys are. Could Gill, Jaiswal, Brook all be considered a guaranteed member? So Martin Crowe came up with the Fab Four thing, and I think a big reason that we came up with it, or he came up with it, is because they are all the same age, right? They're all within about 2 years of each other or whatever. That isn't really the case. We don't really have that anymore, so we're not going to force that. But if you want the next 4 best players, Gill, Jaiswal, Brook, and I'd throw Mendes in there, are quite interesting ones for me.
Mendes, is it? God bless you. Mendes, is it?
You don't like Mendes?
No, I like him. I quite like him, but
yeah, I want to see him tested a lot more. But if I'm looking for the 4th player, he's the most obvious 4th player for that list. I would have thought at the moment. I'm trying to think if there's anyone else I'm forgetting about. I mean, there's no.
What about Manas Labuschagne?
Well, he's too old, and he's also just been dropped from his team. You wouldn't say he was the next. I mean, he's what, 30, 31 now?
Does Pant on?
I don't. I think Pant's almost. I don't want to put Pant in any list. I want him just on his own doing his thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I like Mendes quite a bit at the moment. I don't think there's many other players coming through.
How old is Jamie Smith?
Jamie Smith's quite young, but does he count if he's a further down the order player? Like if he comes up the order, that changes.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
What does it have to be? Did Martin Crowe say that it has to be a top order batter?
I don't know. I'll go check his notes.
You seem to know a lot of these things, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I just remember Martin Crowe sending me an email about it, and about 20 minutes later, I realized he'd written a whole piece on it, and I still don't remember.
Vibor asked something about Kuldeep.
No, we'll get to that one in a moment. But Vibor also asked, Mulder just declared when he was on 367. Why? My guess is he's trying to win the game.
Yeah.
Makes sense, doesn't it? If it's a good enough pitch for him to make that many runs, he'd probably do that. We've had plenty of players declare on themselves. The most famous one is Mark Taylor, right, against Pakistan when he was, 333? What? No, it was more than that.
He didn't want to go to 333. He didn't want to go past.
It wasn't 333. 333 is Gooch. Taylor
it was 334.
Yes, 334. Well done. And it was
He
the
didn't want
same.
to go past Bradman.
Bradman, yeah. But also, they wanted to win the game. I think sometimes, you know what it is with captains, we sort of. Oh, South Africa already have 2 wickets in that one game.
Yeah, 6-2. I was just looking at
that. Cheese on Toast says stacked batters. Kuldeep still benched. Too defensive? Question mark. Look at Robbie's little brain
too
working.
defensive. I don't know why. Like, how is this even a legitimate question? Because I don't think it's too defensive. They've just won a test match.
How did you feel when you saw the 11 though?
I was okay with it.
You didn't think it was too defensive then?
No.
Okay.
No,
I did.
I felt it was all right. You felt it was too defensive?
I also because Ryan Denniscarter said that they were trying to get to Lords only 1-0 down, and it looked like a team where they picked to make sure that they had drawn the test rather than won it. I mean, they won it easily, so well done to them.
Did he actually say that?
He said something along those lines. He said they didn't. He said worst case scenario they didn't want to be more than 1-0 down, and then they had batting down to number 8 and Jadeja and 2 all-rounders around him as well. So I thought it was a bit interesting. Aditya says, I don't understand the buzz being Indian team selection. They had 5 proper bowlers plus 1 part-timer and could bat to number 8. The issue isn't that they had 5 proper bowlers. It's whether you have 5 proper bowlers for that test match. And I think that in the end, that basically their 3 seamers took all of the wickets, which means they probably all went above. What they didn't have, what I did here, I think the problem is at the moment is that Jadeja gives you the opportunity to go in with 5 genuine bowlers, and we probably haven't seen them go in with 5 genuine bowlers, only because Washington and Jadeja can only bowl so many overs between them in English conditions. So I think that's more the element that the rest of us have on that one. And Sunmeet says, if India is serious about Akash Deep in the test setup, a series in England would be the perfect opportunity to blood the swing bowler in the team. So, the ball's not swinging as much in the UK at the moment. Also, they're doing really, really well. Why would you bring him in when the other bowler... if it's a perfect time to blood a swing bowler, it's also a perfect time to use a seam bowler.
Yeah, 100%. And, you know, if this hadn't worked out, they would have definitely gone to... See, the thing is, if this test match was drawn, I reckon in the next test match, you would have seen you would have seen Siraj, Bumrah and Arshdeep playing along with I think Akash as 4 fast bowlers.
Yeah, I agree.
That's what would have happened at Lords. So I think they went with the mindset, and if Tendo did say that we're trying to go to Lords being only 1-0 down.
I think he said worst case scenario, but he was definitely bringing it up in a way that you wouldn't normally bring it up.
Yeah, so if he was actually alluding to that, then you understand why India went with this 11.
Friend of the show, Tendo, lovely guy as well. So
yeah,
if I've misquoted him, he can send me a WhatsApp and tell me I'm wrong later on. That's it. We're done.
He won't
Robbie,
do that. Yeah,
I said
he won't do that. He's a sweetheart.
No, he might send me a message going, "Are you sure that's what I said?"
Yeah.
Robbie, we've got one more show with you in Dubai, and then
in Dubai. We're going at 11:30 Dubai time, 10 o'clock, 10:30 India time, so 12 o'clock Dubai time. We're doing. We're going on X on Spaces. And we're going to just be talking about the test match for half an hour. Just good banter. You, me, Abhishek Mukherjee, and maybe 1 or 2 surprise co-hosts will come and join us.
And so we'll do one more show with you in Dubai next week, and then we'll be doing a bunch of shows with Robbie in the UK.
We'll
we'll work out how we can record those. They might not be able to be live, but we'll
see. I'm going to be I'm going to be in Fox cable land. So so pardon me in advance for lack of network. I'll try and take a dongle from here so that it works. So that I have internet. I don't know about him.
You'll need rubber boots up until your waist as well. Aditya says, with current pitch, use 2 spinners with a softball. Spinners also hate softballs. There's no bowler in the world that likes using a softball. It's not. I know a lot of people think, oh, you just do that, and it's like, yeah. Then the spinner just ends up getting milked the whole time.
He gets nothing out of the pitch if he uses a softball.
All right. Goodbye
absolute nothing.
Goodbye from us. Remember, like, subscribe, do all the different things that you need to do. Be kind to foxes if you see them in the wild, but if you see one
And
around
be
my
kind
house,
to Jarrods as well.
don't be kind to them at all. If you see them around my house, do not be kind to them. And we'll see you again for another KimAppa.